You think you've had a hard day. You sit in your little chair, in your temperature-controlled room, staring at your glowing rectangle. And at the end of it, you go home and say, I'm exhausted. I was at this forge before the sun came up. I'll still be here when it goes down. And tomorrow, I'll do it again. Same as yesterday. Same as the 10 years before that. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that without me, and men like me, your village doesn't eat, your horses don't move, your doors don't lock, and your lord's army doesn't march. I'm the blacksmith, and today, you're going to live my day. Try to keep up. Let me tell you what I am, since most of you seem confused about it. I am not a hobbyist. I am not a craftsman who dabbles. I am the reason this village functions. See that plow in the field? I made the iron share that cuts the earth. Those horseshoes on the miller's horse? Mine. The hinges on the church door? Mine. The lock on the Lord's strongbox? Mine. Everything in this village that bends, cuts, fastens, or holds. I made it, or I fixed it. The Latin records call me Faber Ferrarius. You can just call me essential. I started this work when I was 7 years old. 7. My apprenticeship lasted nearly a decade. By the time I touched a piece of iron without someone watching over my shoulder, I had already put in more hours learning this trade than you spent in whatever school you attended. And that schooling of mine involved no sitting down. Mostly, it involved being shouted at and occasionally burned. So when I say I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing. It is 4 in the morning, maybe 5 on a generous day. I am already here. Not because I enjoy it, because the forge demands it. This fire needs an hour, sometimes more, just to reach the temperature where iron becomes workable. So while you're still asleep wrapped in your blankets dreaming about whatever it is you dream about, I am lighting charcoal and working these bellows. And not just any charcoal, mind you. Smithing charcoal is a specialist product. A charcoal burner in the forest spends days producing it from specific hardwoods. Oak, hornbeam, because it burns hotter and more evenly than ordinary wood. Temperatures in this forge reach over 1100 degrees Celsius, sometimes over 1300. That is not warm. That is not cozy. That is the kind of heat that warps the air in front of you and turns iron the color of the sun. Now, the bellows. I have been working these bellows since I was a boy. You can tell a blacksmith who's worked long enough by looking at him sideways. My right arm, the hammer arm, is noticeably larger than my left. Scholars who dig up men like me centuries from now will look at our bones and see exactly what we did with our lives, written into the skeleton itself. While the forge heats, I look at the day's orders. The farmer's plow blade needs sharpening before harvest. A knight passing through needs a buckle repaired. The miller needs a new iron pin for his wheel. This is not a slow morning. It never is. All right, the forge is hot. Let's talk about what I actually do. Take a horseshoe. Simple enough, you'd think. I heat the iron until it glows. And I mean glows, like a piece of trapped sunlight. Then I pull it out, and I strike it. Hard. Fast. Repeatedly. I have perhaps 30 to 60 seconds before it cools below working temperature. Every second I waste is a second of charcoal burned for nothing, and I have to put it back in the fire and start again. One horseshoe might take 30 or more hammer strikes. My hammer weighs between 1 and 4 kilograms depending on the task. I make multiple horseshoes on a good day, plus everything else on that list. The color of the iron tells me everything. I have no thermometer. Never had one. Never will. Orange means it's workable. Yellow means it's nearly perfect. White. White means I've gone too far and I risk burning the iron. Red means it's cooling and I'm running out of time. I read this the way you might read a clock. It took years to learn. The noise in here is extraordinary. You can hear my hammer from 200 meters away. The ringing never stops. My ears, well, I've stopped noticing. And the heat. I want you to really understand the heat. Imagine standing as close as you dare to a bonfire. Now imagine that bonfire is inside a small stone building with one window. Now imagine doing that for 10 hours. That's a slow day. Scholars who study men like me, our remains, find the same damage everywhere. Degenerative disease in the spine, in the shoulders, in the wrists. at rates much higher than ordinary medieval people. We are old at 35, not in spirit, in bone. Around midday, I eat. Bread. Pottage. That's a thick stew. Vegetables mostly, whatever's available. Sometimes salted meat. Ale, because the water in this town will kill you faster than the work will. I eat standing up usually. I eat quickly. The forge doesn't wait for me to finish chewing. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, where's the table? The chair? The hour off? There is no hour off. There are church bells that mark the canonical hours. There is the sun telling me how much light I have left. And there is that list of orders that does not get shorter by itself. Skilled craftsmen in my era eat reasonably well compared to the laborers in the fields. That much I'll grant. But reasonably well is not the same as pleasantly. It means I have enough to work. That's what food is for. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a plow blade to finish. The afternoon is when I do the work I'm actually proud of. The rough work, resharpening, basic fittings. I can set my apprentice on that with half an eye on him. The afternoon is for the complex pieces, lock mechanisms, decorative ironwork for the church. The priest pays well for those, and he expects artistry, not just function. Occasionally surgical tools, if there's a physician in the area who needs them. Armor repair when soldiers pass through. The range of what I produce would surprise you. The museums in your time hold iron objects from mine. Knives with decorated handles, chains of extraordinary length, hinges with flourishes that took real skill to form. We are not brutes hammering randomly. We are craftsmen. My social standing in this village is complicated. I am essential. Everyone knows it. Even the Lord knows it. But I am also a manual laborer, covered in soot, with hands that will never be clean, in a world that views physical work as the lot of the lower orders, that counts against me regardless of how necessary I am. Grudging respect. That is what I am owed, and that is what I receive. I've made my peace with it. When the light goes, and in winter, that can be as early as 4 in the afternoon, I have to stop. Not because I'm tired. Because working iron by color in bad light is how you ruin a day's work, and waste charcoal that cost real money. I read the iron by eye. I need the light. So I bank the fire, cover the coals to hold the heat for morning, hang up the tools, secure the workshop. And then, are you ready for this? My day continues. Because I also run a business. I track what I'm owed, often in grain or goods rather than coin in a village like this. I negotiate with the charcoal burner for next week's supply. I plan tomorrow's orders. I check the raw iron stock. And then there is the Lord. Part of my arrangement with the Lord of this manor, the feudal obligation, requires that I maintain certain of the village's shared tools without additional payment. Unpaid work, built into the very structure of the world I was born into. You call that overtime. I call it Tuesday. Eventually, I eat again. I sit with my family if I have the energy to speak. And then I sleep, and I will tell you honestly, it comes quickly and completely. There is no lying awake for a man who has done what I do. So, that is my day. I am not asking for your pity. I did not build this life to be pitied. I built it because somebody had to, and I had the hands, and the training, and the fire for it. But the next time you sit down at the end of a long day and feel hard done by, just think, for one moment, about the man who was at the forge before the sun came up, who breathed the smoke and bore the heat and struck the iron until his shoulder said enough, and then struck it again, because the order wasn't finished. That man kept your world running. He just never made it into your history books. If this video made you think about history differently, subscribe. That's exactly what this channel is here to do. More real people, more real days, from history's most overlooked corners. I'll see you in the next one.